Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper, you are live from the Path.
I am a working man, I get things done. Work for the Holy Ghost, work for the Son.
And you're listening to Live from the Path, coming from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper.
No, I came in regular, and then Nathaniel came in weird.
He does that. He can't be controlled. All right. Okay, here's what we got going. I don't remember what we had going on the show tonight.
Well, here's the thing. We were just talking about, and maybe it's not, it's like a mixture of Pope-style advice and just a discussion that everybody should be able to agree with. But it's talking about being obedient to the thing that God has you doing. Or, in general, putting some gimmicks and a bunch of, I don't know how much, it's like showmanship aside, and just doing the thing that God has you doing.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we talked about this a little bit a few weeks ago. Some of the conversation was around like, are we ready? Are people have to be? We're talking about false teachers and heretics, and then people afraid to share about the gospel because they don't feel like they don't know enough. And there was encouragement in there that says like, just go with what you got, and kind of walk faithfully in that. So it kind of feels a little bit like that. Like what is it like? Is the question that we're getting tied up trying to think of the new strategy, the new way of either reaching people for Jesus or penetrating the workplace or all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So let's take the So there's a couple angles that these conversations usually end up going in. One has to do with like as a church or as your church service, what that looks like and the angle that you take doing that. And then it's always a separate conversation with how you deal with it in your personal life, like with your folks at work or with your neighbors or whatever. And so, first of all, let me ask you this. Do you feel like that's a fair split? Do you treat those two things differently?
That's difficult for Dan. It's a difficult question.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Yeah, so between work and what was the other option?
Is it the same attitude, I guess, that you would run your church service or the way that your community is outreaching as a community versus how you would look at it as an individual?
Yeah. I think I would generally think of those as different.
Okay,
it's pretty standard.
Okay, so if you were going to characterize as people go out into their their workplace or the clubs that they're involved with or the extracurricular activities they're involved with, and they say something to you like, "Hey, I just want to know, I want to create opportunities to talk about the gospel in these situations." Where do you think that our biggest hangups are?
So I think we are, we're worried about what people are going to think, like their reaction to it. Mm-hmm. We are probably hesitant on what to say, especially in an environment where like people aren't coming and asking. We're trying to introduce. You're trying to get someone to eat the cupcakes as opposed to them saying, "Hey, did you bake any?" And so I think we're concerned about that and the perception of trying to communicate true things to people. I think those are the major what people are going to think of us, what their reaction will be, whether we are skilled enough or we know the right things to say to be effective, that we don't embarrass ourselves or embarrass the gospel going about it. Those are the things that popped in my mind. Nathaniel, what do you think?
I would say sometimes not necessarily sure what to say to somebody. And even when you get into a conversation, it's like, okay, where do I take this now?
You get too far in. It's like trying to, someone asks you, say, "Hey, I'm having trouble with with my wife or whatever," and you're like, "Oh, I might be able to help," and then you find yourself like knee deep in it, and you're like, "I don't even know what to do."
Yeah.
I'm in over my head.
I'm sorry for you, partner.
Yeah. I've had fellas that like tell me a story and they're like, I have this problem with my wife, and then I'm like, the problem's you. You're the problem. And I hate it when people come to me for advice thinking that I'm going to agree one way, and then it's 9 out of 10, frankly, when people come with me and say, "Here's the problem, this other person, bibbity bobbity," and they tell me the whole story, and I'm like, You're the problem.
Yeah.
You understand? You're the one causing this issue. And so let me ask you this. Do you think people temper their advice based on who they're talking to?
Yes.
Right? So like, yeah. So if I think if you took all the things that you just listed and pushed them off to the side and go, look, these aren't actual problems. You just need to be honest about the way that you live life. Right? So, for example, if someone asks you a question and Jesus should be in the answer, you should put Jesus in the answer. And then you're not constantly going, hey, how do I present a way to talk about, Jesus, or try to come up with some kind of phony and try to describe something that doesn't come up naturally. We were talking about this before the show started. People who follow Jesus smell like Jesus. And you don't have to be a follower of Jesus to recognize that smell is different.
Yeah.
Right? To know that there's something different about those folks, and there's something different about the Holy Spirit's indwelling presence in somebody's life. And so I don't think the problem is that we don't have an in. I think the problem is you're not actually living your full life when you're there. You're not actually acting like a Christ follower at your job. You're pulling your punches, right? And you're saying, I'll wait till the right time. We'll wait till someone asks what I'm doing Sunday, and then I'll go, hey, I'm going to church. And then feel like they know this about me. So then we're solid, right? They will also know that, like, based on everybody has a conversation, with their coworkers. Every once in a while, it comes up about their spouse, right? And there is no doubt in anybody's mind that if you answer those questions like you would to your friend at church, they're going to know that you love Jesus, right? It's going to come out real quick that you look at marriage probably slightly different than they would, and you have responsibilities for both husband and wife that maybe they don't think is really necessary.
Yep.
So I guess what I'm saying, instead of like racking your brain trying to come up with a good in for preaching the gospel at work, you let the Holy Spirit do the work, and you stop being such a coward. Right? Not saying that you're going to boldly show up and beat people with the Jesus anvil. You're just going to live your life like you actually believe it.
Yeah.
Not in a way, a covert way of which you sneak Jesus in either where it doesn't belong or as a side saddle to something else that you're doing.
Right. Like, I think at its core, we could say evangelism is not a scheme.
Right.
It's an influence.
Yes.
Like it's a ability to live your life as you would have been called to live it anywhere where you are plopped. And by doing so, you have the opportunity to influence people. They are influenced by what they see you do, how they see you speak, the things that you bring up, your candidness, your willingness to answer honestly, regardless of the situation. If someone says, hey, we're going team activity, what's the most important thing in your life? Jesus. Like, are you willing to do that without thinking, hey, should I say this? I wonder how this is going to land. Or, like, I think it'll get Ted over there if I say it this way. Like, no,
Right,
it's not a scheme. Like, it's just an influence. And so it should relieve you of any burden that says, how do I figure out what to do here? You be you, the you that follows and loves Jesus. And then just go do that in whatever situation you're put in. And then, frankly, you've done everything you can. You cannot control other people, and God will solve his own problems. Like, you need to restrict your understanding of how much you're capable of doing personally, outside of just like your fealty to Jesus showing up in your everyday life.
I think I fell into a scheme the other day on accident at work.
What?
Yeah.
Like a Christianity scheme?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On Sunday, I was. I had to. They called a plant shutdown, so maintenance has to go in, and so and it was a 12-hour thing. So I go in and we're all working, blah blah blah. Comes close to the end of the day, and one of the reliability managers was coming up to me, palling around, whatever, and he's like, "Hey, it's good money though, right?" And I've been listening to an Ecclesiastes sermon earlier in the day, and so I say, "It's all hevel," and he said, "What are you talking about?" And like, I didn't mean to get into this, discussion with him about Hebrew words.
Yeah.
But then it happened, and he was like, I really don't like church. I don't like the singing, and I don't like the standing up, and I don't like the sitting down. But I do like, when the preacher is talking and telling me how to live my life. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You've taken a different stance than most people.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And so then we just kind of got into talking about, Solomon and David, and he confused Solomon with Saul, and we talked about that, and in the end we talked about fearing God, and yeah.
Well, but here's the thing: I think you would have answered that question the same way, right? If you had just been getting done on an Ecclesiastes sermon, and I happened to be walking by and said, "Nathaniel, I heard you had to work on Sunday. At least it's good money." I think you would have still answered it's all
That's
evil.
true. I would.
Yeah. So
Evil.
not a scheme. You did the exact thing that we're talking about. Is because what most likely even people who love and follow Jesus would go, "Yep, it is good money. Sundays, love it."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And skip the whole thing. And I don't know, it's just, there's so many missed opportunities there that if you weren't so busy twisting your beard, you would just said the thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'd have just come out with it. And people would know the difference. I was telling the fellas before the show started about a couple folks that we had been talking to recently, and they came to know who Jesus was merely by being around people who love Jesus for long periods of time. 2 years eating one meal a week at these folks' house with no pitch for evangelism, no, see how our family does it, that's the way Jesus works, or whatever, blah, blah. Just, an interaction with a family who talked to their kids like they always talk with their kids, talk to their spouse, they prayed before a meal, whatever. They just lived their regular life and invited people to come with them. And, as soon as those folks looked at their life and said, I feel like I need God, they knew exactly who to go back to and exactly who to talk to. And if you could just be that for other people, I really feel like you wouldn't have to worry about trying to make all these weird stances in your extracurricular stuff.
We used to have some friends, a friend who was a waitress at Pizza Hut, like 100 years ago, right? And they were trying to figure out how to sell more breadsticks. And if the server went up to the table and said, "Hey, do you want breadsticks?" 9 out of 10 times, people are like, "No, we're good. We're already spending money. I don't need, we got pizza. We don't need it."
Yep.
But what they would do is they would make some fresh breadsticks, and they'd have somebody walk once around the restaurant with it in their hands, and everybody would look over and go, "Man, that looks good." And they'd smell it, and then they'd go back into the kitchen with it, and then within 2 minutes, they were ordered. All these tables started ordering breadsticks.
Yeah.
And it's that's kind of we just got to smell. You said we smell like Jesus. We just got to. You should be able to see it, and we don't have to have. We shouldn't have to spell it out every time we open our mouths and get awkward and weird with it. They should just sense it in us, I think.
That is a great example.
Yeah.
I love this breadstick story.
Yeah.
Agreed. It
makes me
fired
hungry.
on all cylinders.
People go, "Boy, look at that."
Yeah, it was great. And then she showed us a few times when we were there. And we sit there, we were in the corner watching. We're like, "Man, that really works."
Yeah.
I mean, and pretty soon all these tables are getting breadsticks. And they just,
That's wild.
tricky.
So I guess the call here is to say, one, there's no such thing as I'm not prepared to influence the world for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. That's not a thing. If you love Jesus and you're trying to follow him faithfully, then you're already doing it. I guess that's the thing. Is it speaks something to never say a thing. It's most people in some way or another will kind of sniff out and figure out that you're a Christian. And it's not outside of the bounds of someone to go, "Hey, I wonder why that guy has never talked to me." I know, isn't that what Christians do? Don't they come and talk to you about Jesus? That guy's never done it. I don't see him. This doesn't look like any different than me and my friend Bob. And so, maybe it's a real passive thing, this church business. I got a few Catholic friends. That seems kind of what it is. Then maybe it's not a thing. And so, your inaction still does speak something.
That's assuming you're not living like everybody else.
Yes.
And looking like everybody else and sounding like everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is that and maybe the way Mike describes is probably right. You're pulling something of yourself back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, to the point, I think you could just go about your normal business and people will take it in. But if you're pulling it back because you're not confident, you think you're not ready, you think you're not prepared, you think you do not have the knowledge, or you don't know what people are going to say. I think of the promise in Acts where he says, "Look, I'll make sure that you know what to say in front of the governors. Don't worry about what you're going to say. The Spirit will provide." If the Spirit was all about influencing governors in Paul's day, I don't think it's given up on your neighbor's stew and your ability to say something that's helpful. And and maybe you're going to think, boy, I wish I could have said something more eloquent. But the thing that the Spirit drove in you might have been just the thing Stu needed to hear. I don't know how many times I've really maybe I'm sure Dan's had the experience too. Like you craft something, you put a sermon together, and you're like, you got 2 or 3 things. You're like, this is whiz bang. People are going to hold on to this. They don't hear anything.
Yeah.
The stuff that you thought was whiz bang, and then someone grabs onto something. In fact, I'll give you an example. I was teaching on one of the Beatitudes, I think, and like I was giving an example, I think around not, people making sacrifices for other people, following Jesus in very difficult situations. And one of the examples was there's a guy who had been like kidnapped as a child, and anyway, he had survived it, and then also had come to Jesus and influenced his kidnappers, and blah blah blah. And like this is like real poignant stories about people taking kind of a narrow road. And after the service, this lady comes up. She was an older lady, and she goes, I really appreciate what you said. We gotta watch out for kidnappers.
They're everywhere.
I'm like, yeah, that was it. Nailed it home. Deuteronomy 7. Watch out for the kidnappers. I'm like, this is what she grabbed onto.
It's funny that it's the things like that like, this is what it boils down to, right? Like, you have the being afraid to talk to people thing. You have you have the indwelling presence of the Holy Spirit in you. Reread the book of Acts, and then go leave your house.
Yeah.
Right. Reread the book, and if you read through Acts again and go, this doesn't apply to me, then you just keep reading Acts for the rest of your days until it does. The thing that Jesus said, I have to go, but I'm going to send you a thing. That is still the thing that we're operating on. And it did amazing things and continues to do amazing things.
Yep.
And you've been given the exact same thing, and you won't tag them in. You're like part of a crappy tag team where Brutus the Barber Beefcake's ready to come in and whoop tail.
Yeah.
And you're in there doofsing around like an idiot.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Swinging your fists and doing Hulk Hogan moves that you can't pull off. And if you just tag them in, they'd come in and do work.
And so I was trying to think of a tangible example of when this might go up. So let's say you in your job, I don't know, you're walking down the hall and you're on your way back from a meeting, and then you see a young man or young woman from the company, like obviously upset, a few rows down. And if your first reaction is like, as a follower of Christ, goes, how can I provide help? How can I provide comfort and peace? How can I go talk to this person, maybe pray with them? If your first reaction is, I'm not sure whether I should go over there because of some sort of limitation on what people may think of you, whether you're a boss there, whether you are not sure whether you should offer to pray for with somebody. Like, if those are your hesitations, that's where you're missing out. Not the fact that you didn't bring tracts, not the fact that you didn't make a happy birthday Jesus cake and bring it to everybody to have. It's that a behavior that you want in your heart to do because you love Jesus and you want to love people the way he calls us to, and you have an inclination to do it, and then you pull it back. You restrain your Christianity because of some other outside force. That's what we're talking about, is that kind of thing. And it's the other stuff. Like, Jesus ain't desperate. He don't need to hand out cake. Your pamphlets aren't compelling. People aren't shy of information. They're shy of seeing people follow Jesus in a way that feels real and tangible, that causes them to go, like, say, boy, if I believed in this, I would talk to that guy because this seems to make a difference in his life in some way or another. He's just so nice, or they're just so caring, or like, I don't even believe in it, but he prayed with me and I appreciated it. Like, whatever that is, it's more about losing the shackles of restraint than it is trying to blow it up to something that isn't just what it looks like to follow Jesus normally. Mm. I think that's kind of the point. And like, that was the whole thing about the example I was getting before I got lost in a coughing fit about that lady and the kidnappers, is that like, you can relieve yourself of the burden of what human thing you've conjured up that you think is going to be effective. Like, just trust that the Spirit will have you say or do the things that are right in the moment, as long as you're open to them. As long as I pray on it before you go in, and then say, all right, God, help and guide me here. I want to serve you faithfully, and then go about it, and then go do it. And that translates to how you are a boss to people, and it translates in all kinds of things that you don't have to plot, that you don't have to scheme. Just be you.
Yeah.
The you who loves and follows Jesus.
And even the good parts of your company, right? Like, so even when you think, like, if you see someone crying and go, we have a very good HR department, they should counsel this woman. No, No. You should do that.
Yeah.
That's what God designed you to do. Because here's the thing, and like you have to look at this with an accurate eye. You know more about how this world was created and how it's designed to work than anyone else in that office, barring that there's other Christian folks at your place, right? Like there's nothing in this world. There's no one that understands this better than you as a Christ follower. You know what sin is. You know what the effects of sin are. You know what the price for sin was. You know what freedom feels like, and what joy feels like, and what redemption feels like, and the grace knowing that you can continue to go back as a fallen humanity back to a God that loves you, and you will receive the grace that He promised. And you know what that feels like. And so there's not one problem in that office or in that construction site or in that regular old job of yours that this don't apply to.
Yeah.
And whatever Band-Aid they want to use to address the problem is not the one that you're going to use. Because you know that Band-Aid won't work because you tried it at some point in your life, and that's why you're continuing to follow Jesus. Because you know all that other stuff is just, it's hevel. It's dust in the wind if Kansas were to be brought in.
Okay. So I think if there's a encouragement here, as you look at your life and you know you've got it on your heart and says, God, I know I'm supposed to be making disciples and evangelizing. Your first step is to be you, is to just be it authentically and be it consistently and be the you that God is trying to use everywhere without pulling anything back. Because, like, to be honest, that's not only how you evangelize and introduce people to the kingdom, it's how you disciple people. Like, I've had no success trying to disciple people by, like, walking through some kind of book that was available to me. And it doesn't mean you can't do that, but, like, not a book that I wasn't already reading. It's been helpful for me to build relationships is to go, hey man, I was reading this. Here's what it was talking about. Is that interesting to you? Sure. Can I borrow the book? Yeah. Or I'm listening to this podcast, or like there were things I was already doing that I then was sharing with other people that, like, I don't know, maybe their style, it may not be, but they got to listen to something and asking questions, and we got to talk about it over coffee or eggs, and like it was stuff I was already doing. And so evangelism is like that. Discipleship is like that. I want to make sure, I guess, as a followers of Jesus, we have not unnecessarily chained ourselves to having to be good marketers or good psychologists or good counselors, or like people who really know how to. What are we going to trick somebody? Like, just be you and use the skills and personality that God has blessed you with or changing in you, and just live it out consistently and faithfully. And that's the burden that you have. The Holy Spirit is tasked with doing the rest. And if that relieves you of some things, but otherwise encourages you to live authentically your faith out in front of other people in every circumstances, then I feel like we got some winners here.
Yeah.
I think we're going to, like, people are going to be, like, it may not happen right away because we're not marketing. We're not trying to convince them to buy a newspaper or vote for Steve. Like, you're trying to get them to meet the creator of the universe and to recognize their own depravity. That kind of thing takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
People don't often embrace their own depravity. It makes them admit very harsh things about themselves, and they got to be prepared for it.
Right.
And so, like, you know, we're not saying how many people did I pick up this week. You say, did I walk faithfully with Jesus this week? That's your measure. And then bless him, he will show you fruit. You'll see it. You'll see people do it, like, years down the road, months down the road. It'll show up, and God, as a gift, will let you see what you living faithfully to him is producing. But just relieve yourself of the burden of the count and relieve yourself of the burden of the method. Just live yourself out authentically. Oh, man. It's funny. I'm hearing what I'm saying, and it's aligning with a lot of the cultural direction, which I would very much disagree with. Just be you. The you who loves and serves Jesus, who's being sanctified.
Here's the thing. It's like the me being me as a follower of Christ doesn't get lost in the shovel of a bunch of other people just being themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Once again, like the Holy Spirit's it's something to be dealt with. It's not just hey, I want to bring Mike's personality out inside of a workplace. Like, I want Jesus to be known here, and, like, I'm just not going to hide him, right? I don't know that I'm going to smack everybody in the face with him, but he certainly he don't hide.
That's the idea of being salt and light. I mean, you're not overwhelming.
Yeah, correct. You're
just
there to season.
Seasoning, yeah.
Not knives and fire. There was an article in the Christian Post this week. Says old-time Christianity, a condition necessary for revival in today's church. Let's see how we feel about it. I long to see Christianity come back to the old ways when believers were identified by their lifestyles. Okay. Believers were, I think he's going to take a turn to the left.
I say we were just talking about that.
Yeah, that's
so,
right. Okay.
So far, we're good.
Believers were first called Christians in Antioch because the people saw their behaviors and knew that they were with Christ. In the late 70s and early 80s, Christians in my country were viewed very favorably. Wait, where's he from? No, he doesn't say. 70s and 80s. Okay, this seems like, I hope this is not old-time Christianity, meaning, like, oh, go ahead and do it, Nathaniel. Back in my day.
Back in my day,
Yeah.
back in the 1970s, Christians wore the cat's pajamas.
He says, I remember a local cult that confessed that whenever they went on rampages and attacked people... I'm sorry.
We're going on a rampage.
What a thing to say. Okay. So I might have to hand the phone off. I can't start to laughing at something. I get to coughing. Anyway, when they went on rampages, they were always careful not to touch the born-again people. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Halt, I'm born again. I long for a return of those days when smokers threw away their cigarettes because a born-again child of God was passing their way. Okay. See, this went the direct... I was afraid of this.
Where's this at? This has never happened in America. We're more likely to go, screw you, get away from me. I'm puffing.
Maybe in the 50s.
Okay, so this is probably Africa somewhere, because like the American culture ends up there like 20 years later, and so maybe things were rolling around.
This I was thinking. This is Kenya.
Yeah, maybe. When we were growing up in the 90s, you never dared to approach a Christian girl for casual sexual relationships. There was such respect for Christian girls that even the roughest and the toughest of the boys feared them. The spiritual fruits in their lives separated them from the world, and no one doubted their identities. Now, here's what's interesting. The premise is actually right in line with what we were just talking about. However, there seems to be a sense of like the respect me, I'm born again, that I'm not, like, that lacks humility. On they put your cigarettes down, a man of God walks by. Like, maybe we're targeting the wrong thing. I'm with the casual sexual relationship as a thumbs down. I'm with that. I just that cigarette example was...
It's weird.
That was odd to me.
Hide your deck of cards.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd stay out of the pool halls.
Okay, yeah, Dan, this might be Kenya. I don't know if other Western countries, it's Nigeria, experience a similar phenomenon. But in Nigeria, Christians were feared and respected. Thieves were afraid to steal from Christians, and churches were sacred places that even unbelievers revered. When Christians testified in court, everyone believed because it was generally known that Christians do not lie. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You don't even have to put your hand on the Bible, sir. What do you love Jesus? You're in. There was a clear distinction between the church and the world. Christians were not materialistic, but heavenly minded. Where have we missed it? The sudden degradation calls for sober reflection. We cannot continue to pretend that all is well when we know that things have fallen apart and there are lots of deviations from biblical Christianity. The world is now intimidating the church, and Christians are now afraid of unbelievers. This is an error which must be corrected. A return to biblical old-time Christianity is the only antidote to the moral degradation in the body of Christ worldwide. Let us return. Actually, I appreciate this more written as from a guy from overseas, because again, the return to old-time Christianity puts in your mind some sort of like Colonel Sanders-looking Southern Baptist, and like he's just calling you to when like my wife never talked back to me type of days or something. And so like I'm more gracious with the language. What he's talking about, because it makes more sense. Let us return to a time when Christians who had God's calling tarried for the Holy Spirit to give them power before stepping into the field. Right on. Mm-hmm. There should be a redefinition of the purpose of the church to prioritize the mandate of the Great Commission. Right on. Church abuse became inevitable as a result of ignorance of the purpose of the church. We need to go back to the time when believers were not afraid to die for the sake of the gospel. Let's not forget that the disciples celebrated because they were counted worthy to suffer disgrace for the sake of Christ. Okay, I'm on board here.
I thought he was going a different direction, and I'm really glad it seemed like it's turned a corner.
Yeah.
And so I like. So this is kind of reinforcing. I think that the part of his point being that like people reacted to you because they knew it was you. Like they could pick out a Christian, and not necessarily because we're wearing the Christian T-shirt, or because you're handing out the pamphlets, or because you're like. Being real caustic with the information. They just knew because they don't have to swear. They believe him on the stand. Like people believe that because they've recognized Christians as trustworthy in their day-to-day lives. Mm-hmm. Not because he said, "Hey, I'm trustworthy." Like it's because they've seen it and it is trustworthy. And so like, there's that Tim Timmons song. He said, like, do you believe it or are you living it out? Like, how can if this is a true thing, how could you possibly not live it out or want to live it out? And then that's your only task, and then it changes the world around you already. You don't have to force the change; it just changes the world because you're walking faithfully with Jesus. Said there was a time when ministers of God were not interested in riches, and when the messages of the church was Christ and Him crucified. Emulating the moral characters of the biblical apostles will do us a lot of good and provoke revival and restoration. I'm going to tell you this too. I'm sure Dan experienced this in Zimbabwe. Like, there's nothing quite as invigorating as listening to somebody whose language is English is not their first language, and the things that they're communicating to you are like so dead simple from the Bible. Like, they're dead simple things. And so like but like it's super encouraging because you hear someone using a language that is not their normal one or their first one, saying things like, hey, it would be good if we acted the way the apostles did. Like, duh. But like, it's such a thing. We're like, oh, we're so beyond that now. Well, tell me about the new perspective of Paul, friends. Like, maybe the basic things are the things we still are working at. And here, I don't know, hear a guy with English as a second language do it. It just pulls you back to something childlike almost. They're like, yes, that's right. I got caught up in a bunch of other things. How about we just look at how for people who were living around Jesus lived and see if we can't align to something like that. Says, as the psalmist says, will you not revive us again that your people may rejoice in you? This is the question in so many Christians' minds. A lot of believers crave to see changes in their lives and churches. Repentance is the gateway to revival. Come, man. He's my favorite, this guy. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Today's Christians need to stage a walk back to old-time Christianity. Repent from man-made theologies and principles, embrace the Holy Spirit for supernatural empowerment, and ask God to revive His church and restore the church.
I love this guy.
Yeah.
Where does he live at? I'd like to have him come guest preach.
He's in Nigeria. We should call him.
Yeah.
He ends with, there was a time when the prayers of Christians shook the foundations of buildings, when believers, instead of running away from persecutions and attacks, prayed for the boldness to preach the gospel to the lost. I am convinced that a retrospective step back to old-time Christianity. I wish he'd stop saying that.
We're putting that through American filters.
Yeah. It's just something. Somebody should help him. Like an American editor should go, this might not come off the window. I am convinced that a retrospective step back to old-time Christianity will inevitably bring back the charismatic and raw power of God as it happened in the past.
You could just say first century Christianity or something.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Something. He says old. Again, I look at old time and it's got rough connotations.
He had me going the wrong way because like he told all these stories on how Christians themselves were respected, and then I'm like, look, man, the guys from Antioch weren't respected. Like they were treated very poorly, right? And so like it sounds like in the 70s in Nigeria maybe we carried some clout, but like whether Christians are liked or not is definitely not a bellwether on how things are going. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, there's another interview with. Oh, it's a video. Anyway, the Oscar. I'm going to say this wrong. Amachina. There was a video of him talking about reaching the unreached with the gospel. Oh boy, he's an older gentleman. He looks. I bet he's like 55.
Send that to
60,
me.
maybe 65.
I want to watch that.
Yeah, don't call 55 older.
Maybe older than say
triggering me.
Nathaniel.
Yeah, old timey even.
A guy who was around back then.
So in Zimbabwe, this year we're going again, and their big theme this year for this mission is the year. Is it the year of the summer? The year of 1,000 souls, and they're really emphasizing evangelism throughout Zimbabwe, and it's it's been intimidating. It's like we're going to do like 4 or 5 revivals while we're there. I mean, like tons of preaching, and in schools and in churches and in just villages. And it's kind of intimidating as, American guy. I'm thinking like, I'm going to make sure to communicate to them in a way that they get it,
Yeah, right.
And kind of like we're talking about, he's talking about the old time religion, and maybe that's what they need to hear. Maybe I'll borrow that phrase.
Right.
Let's get back to some old time religion, and they'll be thinking, yeah. And I don't know. It's interesting to try to go get into their culture and get into their get in their head a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be interesting to listen to sermons. I mean, obviously they'd have to be transcribed or whatever, but like listen to sermons from, Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
That are going on this year by, fairly renowned preachers, and go like, what are the phrases that they're using, or what are the things that
I
they're
do
hitting?
listen to one or a couple of them that they live stream their services.
Yeah.
And they'll speak in English often, and then they'll kind of go back to Shona, but they'll come back in English. And yeah, it is kind of interesting. But you're right; it's very simplistic, though. It's as far as this is just a simple gospel.
Right.
They're not trying to get all fancy and lot of twinkle and pizzazz and stuff. They're just like, hey, let's just live like Jesus.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It should almost put us to shame, right? It's the faith like a child thing, right? Where
Yeah.
we spend so much time trying to, shine up or respin or reevaluate or look at a different perspective on how you present the gospel, and you're like, there's most of the time if the gospel is landing flat, it's kind of how it was delivered, honestly. Like the Holy Spirit's all the fire. It's all the thing that makes it sparkle and shine and turn into this thing that you're like, no kidding, right? That's all of it. It's really straightforward, right? Like you sinned, you can't pay for it. God said, I love you, I will pay for this. And then I'm telling you, I designed this to work this way. Follow me. It's really great news, and it's really straightforward, but we're like, we got to shake it up. We got to make it look like this. We got to make it apply to people more personally. And we're like, how much more personal can we get it? Right? I feel like we should just allow longer, awkward silences in our sermons, right? We just go, and here's the thing, chaboom, and then just look around and go, that's it. I don't know what else you're still doing here.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking about?
Yeah. I mean, you read Paul if you want to, but I'm telling you.
This is what he's getting at.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it, Mike.
Oh, yeah, you want to do some advice?
Yeah, let's do a little bit of advice.
There's a couple weird advices out there.
I'm gonna help change the world.
Here we go. Dear Life from the Path.
Nathaniel, did you read ahead?
On the Life from the Path?
Yeah, on the Dear Life from the Path.
No,
Okay, good.
because I wasn't going to read it,
Okay, yeah, that's right.
so I didn't need to read it out loud.
All right.
For the
Told
last,
youth group that you made fun of my reading.
What do you mean?
did you do Life from the Past?
I did, and I'm not very good at reading out loud. I'm actually very bad, and Ben said that I had a reading level of a second grader.
Ben, I mean, he walks like a man without knees, like full legs but no knees. Like it was. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for it. He's such a.
Wait a minute. When did you do this?
We did a show. We did a show a couple weeks ago. I left it here. I tried to upload it. It didn't work, and then I haven't been back to the studio for like 2 weeks.
I've been looking for new shows for weeks, and I didn't know
Yeah.
you had one in the can.
Nathaniel's performance. Here's Nathaniel is a sharp guy who does sharp things. It's just that reading thing took me aback. He just
Yeah,
like someone
I'm
stole
bad
his
at
tongue.
Okay, I'm going to read well then. You ready?
Yeah.
Dear Life from the Path. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been receiving holiday cards from an ex-girlfriend of mine. I haven't had contact with her since meeting my wife. My wife and I have been together for 6 years, married for 2. The cards keep coming, and it's starting to make my wife uncomfortable. How do I respectfully tell my ex to quit sending them? I don't have anything in common with this person, under that we used to be boyfriend and girlfriend back in high school.
What? This is like a high school girlfriend?
And he's been married 6 years now?
My wife they've been together for 6 years, married for 2.
Oh, married for 2.
So after they got together, the ex-girlfriend sends Christmas cards. Now, does she send them just to you and that's it?
Or to him and his wife? I think they're going to just him, not like Mr. and Mrs. X.
Still, I mean, I don't think this is a big deal. Is this a big deal?
I remember my girlfriend named Cheryl was not happy when I was getting Christmas cards from my ex-girlfriend named Marina when we were in college. She was like, why did you hang that up on the wall?
Oh,
with the other
damn,
ones.
that's a
It's
mistake.
like, why put it with the other ones? I don't know. I'm in college. Who gives a college kid Christmas cards?
No,
I thought it was
also
cool.
weird.
It had an extra one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did not like that. Just say don't send them to me. It's not appropriate. I'm married.
Yeah, but is it really worth all that to go out of your way and go, by the
If
way,
it honors your wife, yeah.
stop sending me these cards?
Dan says if it honors
It makes
the wife.
it makes your wife sound very insecure.
Maybe so.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be careful that I don't wear too tight of pants when I'm out. Does that make my wife feel? Because
No. That's for the nauseum of everyone else.
Oh,
We'll go look at those two bongos.
actually, now that you mention
It looks like a flat iron.
that is what she said. Now that you said that, like, don't do that to people. Okay, fair enough. Assuming the question is, if there's nothing else going on, no phone
right.
calls, no visits, nothing else weird. This girl just sends a Christmas card, doesn't write any weird notes in there, like.
You know how some people are.
Can
They
you
send
just-
Christmas cards to absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
They'll give it to the mailman. And the mail's like, I brought all of these here. I don't want one of them. You know?
Yeah, so maybe I would go with a split approach. I would say, don't overthink this. This is not a deal. If it's not a deal, don't make it a deal. And I would affirm to your wife that this is not a deal. But if she was insistent upon it, then I would honor her and say, look, yeah, okay. What do I care? What's the worst that this other lady's going to do? Be mad that you don't want a Christmas card? She kind of, okay, you're not married.
It already didn't work.
Yeah.
I feel like they would just think less of your wife. And I wouldn't want to walk my wife into that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I suppose she doesn't care. So I don't care what she thinks of me. I don't want her Christmas cards in this house. Okay. So then you, write them back or call them and be like, look, Stephanie, I need you to stop sending cards to the
It
house.
does feel odd now that you say
Right
that out
now,
loud,
now it's because she's like, well, what's the problem? And now you're defending it because you're not really offended. You're just trying to handle it on your wife's behalf, and it ain't going to take Stephanie long to figure out that your wife is the one that doesn't
Yeah.
want them.
My
And
wife,
now
my
she
wife
seems
is
petty.
concerned that you're a Jezebel.
Yeah.
And now that is a weird thing to have to communicate to someone.
I would
Yeah.
just throw it away. I mean, if it's that big of a deal, just take it in and chuck it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but it doesn't hurt to say, this just makes my wife uncomfortable. That's all. I mean, it's not even calling you a Jezebel. It's just like, I mean, we're not really together anymore. I don't know.
Right.
It just makes her uncomfortable, that's all.
I don't want you sending me friend Christmas cards.
It does feel like an overreaction. Like the lady who sold who sells her husband an ice cream at the Dairy Queen. She's like, I don't like you taking food from other women. Like, it does feel a little bit like this. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like you don't want to feed into an unnecessary fear to like I guess it's a conversation, babe. I feel like you might be overreacting. Or is there something going on that I'm missing? Because like it's just a Christmas card. Well, I think she's trying to get back with you.
No,
she's not.
Well, here's the thing.
right,
I think that you're probably you're telling yourself a story, right? You're like she's purposely firing these things off. Once people get a Christmas list, they don't subtract anybody. They just add. And so they here's all the people, all the addresses. You send them out, and you go here, put up all these on the postcards. Out they
So
go.
you guys are thinking like dudes. You got to think like your wife.
Hey, hold on. Time out. That reminds me. My wife did not listen to the program very often, but she took in one the other week, and she said, I didn't agree with your Live from the Path, your advice. And I said, what the heck, why not? She says we were too easy on the lady. You remember the lady who didn't want to host family for like 4 days over the holiday
Oh yeah.
Okay.
season? And we said, look, whatever, go to a hotel or something, or go sit up in your room. It's totally fine. It's your husband's big family, and I get it. And my wife goes, she goes, you were way too easy on this woman. She needs to buck up. She goes, it's 4 days. It's 4 days. She married you. She married your family. And so if she married into a family and you guys get together, then she needs to be a part of that. She just needs to walk away just because she doesn't want to be around. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what we meant to say.
That's what I would tell a lady in the advice column.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. It's like you have to try on the pants where you're the one that brought the mess. And then you're looking at your wife going, I'm sorry. Like 360 days out of the year, we're fine. But these 5 days, I've brought holy wrath upon this house.
But if you remember that's not the family wasn't destructive or anything. This woman just wants some kind of respite. She just doesn't like large crowds. And basically her thing is it like, are you gonna be with your husband or what? Are you gonna go, look, if things aren't my way, I'm not gonna hang around. If the family environment isn't what I wanted for these 4 days, then I'm gonna take time to myself. She's like, you got the rest of the year. You married your husband. You know what you're walking into. Don't abandon him here with that family. You hang out. You do it together.
She might be right.
I know.
She might be. I don't know.
We were too easy on the lady because we don't want the ladies to be mad, and it feels a lot easier
That's
to yell
true.
at the guy.
If that dude had showed up with the same complaint, we would have been like, look, you horses behind, you're gonna work this whole thing out. You're gonna be up making
You love
eggs.
your wife or not?
I don't want to hear any more about this.
Not the waffle maker.
That's right. You better buy new tablecloths. I mean, you're Belvedere as far as I'm concerned. You're working the whole deal.
Anyway, thinking like dudes, that just reminded me. I thought, I just that's the first time I've had my wife mention that she didn't agree with our advice, and it was because we were not harsh enough on someone. I thought, well,
That don't happen much.
yeah, that's new.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nathaniel, what's the end result for you? What are you telling him?
I mean, I just take the card in. Oh, look, it's from ex-girlfriend. Trash.
Yeah, trash.
This is you don't have to hang it up on the fridge and frame it.
Yeah, don't put it in the place of esteem at your house.
Like a
Just-
special box in your closet.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah. Plus, it makes it seem like what if this other lady's married too? It's a picture of her and her husband and their 2 dogs, and it just seems kind of
Card
weird.
to them.
Huh?
Yeah, maybe you should turn around and start sending a card.
See how she feels about it.
Send a card.
Spiteful Christmas card sending.
Are we still meeting on Easter?
I think I would just chuck it. I
Take
think
it in,
that's
throw it
easier
out.
for everybody else. I mean, if you really feel like she is really honestly trying to cause trouble and there's no level of insecurity that's bringing this up, then yeah, you can give her a call. But otherwise, just throw it away. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you send presents in it, like money and stuff. Then
Yeah.
I would take that.
Then I'd take the money out.
and then throw the card away.
Yeah, say that's it. All right, Secular says, this old flame may be simply trying to be friends and not intend to pose a threat to your marriage. A way to discourage her might be to send her holiday greetings from you and your wife with a picture of the 2 of you, your kids if you have any pets, etc. If you don't send Christmas greetings, perhaps a snapshot of you and your wife on vacation would suffice.
Here we are, madly in love.
Or a wedding picture may get the message across. Don't you think that's a little much?
This is comically passive aggressive.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, here's the thing. This person that sent the Christmas card is a human. They're a human being. Like, you don't manipulate them. Like, if it's that big a deal, call them and say. I mean, Dan's right. Like, if you really just want this to stop and you can't handle it, and you can't just throw the stuff away, then treat them like a human who's got feelings and who put time to put a stamp on the thing and send it to you. Just say, look, it just makes my wife a little uncomfortable, or whatever you got to say. But like, at least treat them like a human being.
Right.
Like, what a jerk thing to do is like, I hope you get the hint. Here's a pic of me and my wife on vacation, and I got my hand around her waist, and she's super close to the camera, so you know she's mine. Like,
We have 2 children, so you know what we've done.
It's like a girl.
right? What the heck?
It's like a lady got her hands full, and she looks at me and goes, "Hey, can you grab the door?" And I go, "I'm happily married." Okay, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's just a Christmas card. That's all, right? Okay, you don't want it. Okay, fine.
Yeah, when's a Christmas card not a Christmas card? When she's in lingerie on the front.
Yeah.
And then, yes, or if it has a note that says, call me, Dave. Like, I don't...
Right, and
It'll be
actually,
easy to pick out.
If it's making your wife insecure, if it's the be all end all situation where she's still a single gal, couldn't you feel like you won? Right, like she's still single from when she used to date your husband, and you can go, ha. You know what I'm saying? Celebrate a little, and then put it up as a badge of honor on your mantle and go, that woman's single, I am not. Score.
Here's my card, but I choose you.
Yeah, I think you should try to let this go.
Yeah.
If we're trying to edify everyone involved, I'm going to encourage you to just let this go.
Yeah.
I still disagree with you guys.
Take it. You disagree. You would call.
It says, call it up, break it off. This pseudo relationship we don't even have. It needs to be stopped.
Yeah. I'd friend her on Facebook, and then I'd say, hey, stop it. And then I'd unfriend
Then I
her.
don't friend.
That'll teach her.
Yeah, I think there's a job opening for you to give secular advice, Dan.
Then I'd call the police.
Then I call the police.
That's right. If you get this card next year, you call the law.
Yeah, and I would suggest everyone go to a psychologist.
Hey, we're on a roll, Mike. Fire on up.
Dear Life from the Path. A friend recently moved back to his home state. Because he was anxious about leaving, I told him he could stay with me anytime he wanted. I was trying to be nice and calm his nerves, but he has taken me literally and thinks he can come stay with me whenever he likes. When he visits, we rarely spend time together outside of my house. What happened to Dan?
There's an obvious hole in this person's advice, like in what they told their friend. hey, come stay with me whenever you like. And now this guy stays with me whenever he likes.
I didn't mean it.
I can't believe it. It's just something a guy says, you know?
Hey, how you doing? I don't care.
Yeah. He took me literally.
Okay, when he visits, we rarely spend time together outside of my house. He's off with other friends for dining, boating, etc. By the way, I know these people, but I'm never invited, which is okay, I suppose. But shouldn't I be? Question mark. In addition, he leaves piles of clothes lying around in my living room, along with used tissues and face masks, which seems disrespectful. Am I wrong to be annoyed? Other friends think I'm being taken advantage of. I would appreciate your thoughts. What?
I mean, yeah, just say, hey, offer rescinded.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so here's the thing. I think you're right to be annoyed, but you're pointing the finger at the wrong person. Get a mirror.
yeah.
Point at the mirror, and then tell me who the finger is pointing at. Because, like, you weren't clear about what the boundaries were. You tried to be Johnny Gracious, and thought that no one would take you literally. He took you literally, so he's at your place all the time. You didn't tell him. Since then, you did not correct it and say, "Hey, dude, you can't live here." I just no joking around. You can obviously afford a place to stay. I don't know who his friends are with this dining and boating that you're going about. But, like, if it's often enough to say you go boating, yeah, I think you're doing all right. So you can pay for a hotel, go stay with your parents or something. And then, like, if he's leaving his crap in there, you say, look, you can't stay here if you're going to leave your crap in here.
Yeah.
This is your fault for having not been clear after it happened in a way that you didn't expect. Like, you don't have to predict everything. One night of this is not on you. But the second night that it happened, this is on you because you didn't say anything.
So this is, maybe I missed it, but is this like a long-term stay, or is he just like hanging out whenever he comes into town?
Right, he moved back home, but, like, so he was living in this same town with the guy. And then he moved back to his home state, and he said, well, anytime you want to come back and visit, you're more than welcome to stay here. And then he just visits all the time. Of course, now, but here's the thing. Look at the things he listed he's upset about, right? He's upset because, he says, when he visits, we rarely spend time together outside of my house.
Oh, yeah.
So he feels like he's being taken advantage of.
being used,
You're not
yeah.
here to see me. You're here to just use my house.
Yes, that's what but you offered your house.
That's true. He's always off with other friends for dining and boating, which he doesn't get invited to. So then, once again, you're just using me as a place to stay.
Yeah, I mean, you're a bit of a soiled diaper friend. Maybe that's why no one has you out.
Correct, because
Yeah.
you're whining and, hey, look at me type attitude. Then he says, with the piles of clothes in the living room along with... I mean, that's a really easy thing to put it into. I mean, if you're good enough friends with the guy, I just don't understand the not mentioning this, right? But, like, you look around and go, look, man, this place is a sty. And it's not when you're not here. So clean this up. Don't leave this house again like this.
This is a one-sided friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're not really friends. You're just being used. You don't leave your crap laying around people's houses and then go off and party and
No.
then come back. I mean, like if you're doing it regular, I mean,
Yeah.
even just put it back in whatever room you're staying in, and close the door.
Yeah, so here's the thing is you're going to have a tough conversation that no one likes to have because
Yeah.
the guy's going to go, why? And you're going to have to tell him because you flat out just don't want him there. It's not because you don't have the room. It's not because you're not available. It's not because you can't afford it. You just don't want him there. And you're
Yeah.
going to have to tell him all the reasons why.
Yeah, just say, hey man, I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. I should have been more clear.
Yeah.
Here's my expectations. You can stay if you can meet those expectations, or don't. I'm
Yeah.
okay with
I
that.
thought it
too.
was going to be like once every 6 months, not like once a week.
This is too much, and it wouldn't be a big deal except for your underpants are in the middle of the living room.
Yeah.
And I'm not down for that.
And like, we're looking at this a little bit differently, right? Because we're Midwest, and the further west, this is a big deal. But I mean, he could be like, Delaware and Massachusetts or whatever's right next to Delaware.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like it's only a 2-hour drive to get to his new home state. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I'm thinking like Wyoming, and it's a big old fly, and it takes like 15, 20 hours to get here.
Nobody
And
boats in Wyoming.
Nobody boats in Wyoming.
No, they don't.
Yeah, this smells like Nantucket for sure. Okay, so at the end of the day, you're to blame, sir. You were trying to be generous. Someone's taking advantage of your generosity, and it is not ungenerous to draw boundaries on your generosity. That doesn't make you ungenerous. It just makes you pragmatic.
Actually, I think that's Micah said a wise thing, and that's worthy of a bumper sticker or a T-shirt or something, or a nice plaque above your living room. It is not ungenerous to draw boundaries. It's not.
Yeah.
It's totally fine to draw boundaries. And it doesn't lack. And you're right. It doesn't lack generosity to install boundaries where you neglected to do so in the past. You're just correcting an oversight.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you're not generous.
Yeah, and it's never too late to do it.
Right.
Okay, Secular says, do not blame your friend for taking advantage of the generous offer you made before he moved. And no rule of etiquette dictates that you should be included on his outings with others if it's an invited guest. It would have been thoughtful had he suggested it, however. I do think you are overdue in having a talk with him about the clothes, used face masks, and tissues, quotes, lying around. The bottom line is, do you feel you are being taken advantage of? If the answer is yes, speak up and express that. While you don't mind him staying with you occasionally, he should not assume your house is his pad in town.
I mean, what kind of Brandon Kono just like blows his nose and leaves the tissues everywhere?
That's just disgusting.
Why would you? I mean, even at your own house, that's a little bit gross.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, at somebody else's place, like, just like dropping around.
That's disrespectful. Yeah,
He's comical. Like
Yeah.
either he's like, this is totally his personality and everyone loves him for it, or he's a weasel. And like, I'm leaning towards weasel, and you shouldn't feel bad about this at all.
No.
One of the guys overblowing it. Like he blew his nose. He took a Kobe from the three, and
Right.
he missed it in the can. And then he walks in and goes, "What's this on doing on the ground?" Freaking out.
I wouldn't be surprised. He does seem like he's a little bit antsy.
Yeah.
Like maybe he offered this because he really wanted a friend, and he thought the friendship was deeper than he thought than what it actually was, and then now it's like treating him like a spouse. Like he's got the inside track to speak to this man's life when really like it's a lot more casual. So there's two in a row where like you really risk overreacting to how invested you are in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more.
Last one. Dear Live, from the path. I'm 44 and divorced. I have no kids, and I live with my parents. Mm-hmm. I didn't finish college, but I do have a job in my field of study. Okay. I'm happy in my job, have some friends, and I'm content to not date anyone ever again. However, I feel like I'm a failure. I'd be embarrassed to go to a school reunion and have to tell my former classmates about my pathetic life. I was always the ambitious one in my circle of friends. I was the one who was going to make something of myself and have an amazing career, a husband, and kids. My parents are disabled, and it does help that I live with them. I pay rent, utilities, and for my own groceries. How can I convince myself that I haven't made a complete mess of my life and that my circumstances don't mean my life has been wasted?
I'm real confused at their representation of their own life. Like the opening description versus this perceptive description of whatever, like what she thinks. It's a she, right?
Yeah.
What she thinks about herself, and then, or what she claims to think about herself, versus what she's worried everyone else is thinking, feels a lot more like what she actually thinks about herself.
Right. Because actually, nobody's really thinking about her.
Yes.
Nobody at her high school reunion cares.
No. They want to tell
that
their own
night they
stories.
might, but then the next day they're back to their life, whatever
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
selling Porsches and stuff.
Yeah, somewhere in this description you're lying to yourself, and I can't tell where it is.
Well, I think the lie comes in when you base your life around things that don't matter at all, like owning a house or being married, or let me back off of don't
I
marry.
think your wife
matter
wants
at
to know
all.
more about.
But like,
Nathaniel's solid gold. Yeah. No, when he talks about marriage, I mean, just he oozes silver.
These don't matter at all, like your wife.
I took a step back.
I got to level with you, woman. You don't mean anything to me.
I took a step back.
You're going to need a ladder to get out
But
of
here's
this
the
one.
thing: like ultimately, whether you're married or not, it doesn't like
Yeah.
it can bring some joy, but it shouldn't be your ultimate joy.
Right.
And so, yeah.
I was really hoping you were going to expound upon it in some wisdom type way.
No, you guys know me. I say something and then I back down.
Dear wife, you are not my ultimate joy. Love, husband.
Okay, so
Here's a Christmas card from
I don't care if I'm married or not.
You guys are picking up what I'm laying down.
Yeah, so Nathaniel's right. He's just said it in a real poor manner. The thing is, it's like you are judging your entire life based on perceived failures, right?
Yeah.
If you were going to get married, the goal was to stay married forever. That didn't happen. If you were going to have a family, you should have had kids, which you didn't. If you were going to go to college, the whole point of going to college is to finish college, which you did not. And so, like, these are all fails to complete as far as you're concerned. Now, I frankly, I think you could probably use some of this as a motivation to go, which part of these things actually is what's going on here? Why does it not appear that the things that I actually do want, I'm not actually getting done? Mm-hmm. I think that's a decent self-reflection thing. But as far as allowing the rest of the world to decide what is good, what is bad, and what is, good for you in your situation, you're a fool to open that wheelhouse.
Yeah, because she's she's staying with her parents, but she's actually helping them. She's not freeloading. She's buying her own stuff. She's providing her own needs, and she's caring for them who have some issues. So
the thing is, I mean, this is always true, right? If you're doing a good thing, it could still look bad to other people.
Yeah.
You don't care, right? If people are going to go, you're such a loser, you live at home with your parents, you go, okay, when you know full well they're both handicapped and you bathe them, then you just say, okay. People don't get to know all that stuff, and frankly, trying to get other people to validate what is good and what is bad, they can't even handle their own lives. They're not even going to be able to see yours correctly. It's the plank in the eye and the speck in your own, right? Like, you can't trust those people. They all got planks in their eyes. They don't know what they're talking about. To Nathaniel's point, Jesus knows what he's talking about. What would be Dan's now constant advice is, get yourself in a church community. Why don't you figure out what life is about and the way that we value things and value people and your inherent worth based on who created you, and then we can go from there. Otherwise, you're basically saying, should I trust other people to evaluate my life? No. The answer is no.
Yeah. I think that's right. Are you satisfied with your life? Let's start with, don't worry about what other people are going to think. If you're happy with it, then be happy with it. If you're not happy with it, then do something about it that otherwise makes you happy with it.
That's right. You're 44, not 68.
it's probably a good time to set, like, what are some long-term, like, 10-year goals? Where do I want to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
Start working on it. Mm-hmm. I mean...
Yeah, but I think Dan does make a good point, is that, like, especially at this age, like, you are, too caught up in what other people will think, and they're not thinking about you at all.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think to that same point, I don't know what level of detail you think you got to go into, but, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm back home. I'm caring for my parents. What kind of jerk is going to go, you're what a failure?
Yeah.
Like someone you don't care about their opinion at all.
Right.
Who would say that?
Dude, you were married. That doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm such an idiot. Why am I so dumb?
I always do this. I do. Every time.
Well, she's even working in her field. So
Yeah, right.
maybe she got all the education she needed
Right,
for the job she wanted. Maybe she doesn't want to be the head zookeeper. She just wants to scoop poop. I mean...
That's right. If it's in her field, it's in her area of interest. If she likes her job, like, how many people hate their job? Everybody hates their job.
Nobody wants to go there.
I love my job.
Nobody wants to go there.
Yeah. Okay, Dan likes his job.
Oh, well, damn.
So,
I love my life.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're fine. I think you got to give this, get over it. And if you're not happy with your own life, then take steps to fix it.
Yeah.
Secular says, while you may not have achieved the lofty goals you set for yourself, like completing anything. I don't know about this. This seems a little bit too massaging. When you were younger, you were being awfully hard on yourself by calling yourself a failure. You have a job you love in the field in which you want to work and good friends.
Yeah.
In order to have friends, you have to be one. Weird side note. I assume the reason you are content to no longer date is past relationships didn't work out. If I'm right, that makes you a member of a very large club. Please try to maintain an open mind, because one day you may meet someone you can care about and who will appreciate the value in you. And caring for your disabled parents is a heavy responsibility and needs to take priority over a social life. A way to counteract these self-defeating negative feelings would be to concentrate every day on those things you have accomplished, rather than what you perceive to be your shortcomings, instead of comparing yourself to others. Yeah, I gotta be honest, just that last paragraph, it's just a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
You can't hold that. You can't hold your own weight here, and the people around you cannot either.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call Christians, I don't know, weak all you want to, but like, God carries all the onus for what you're worth, and the things that you have accomplished and things He set you out to do, and like your ability to think that you can carry that around and evaluate it every day will wear you out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Practice contentment.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I'd say.
That someone loves you despite what you have accomplished or not accomplished.
Yep.
Right? Your worth doesn't change based on what you did or what you haven't done. And
Well-
like, that's the whole good news, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the whole thing.
Man, when I was helping my mom with her Alzheimer's, I would, because I wasn't living with her, but every time I'd go to visit and I'd take care of things and do things, I just was going through my mind the whole time. It's like, what an honor I get to take care of my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, she is like in the highest calling of life right there. She is caring for those who cared for her in the beginning. And what an honor. I mean, man, take pride in that.
All right. Hey, you've been listening to Live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. We really do appreciate it. If you got any feedback for us on the show, you can shoot us a... oh, man, where's my number? Where's my number?
Dear.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Live from the Path complaint line, 515-517-0085. That's 515-517-0085. That's call or text. I probably prefer the text on the Live from the Path Bob Eisenhower complaint lines. We'd love to hear from you. Also, leave us, if you want to, leave us a review at any of your local, wherever you get your podcast, where your fine podcasts are delivered. And we'd love to be able to hear from you that way too. All right, that's it. That's all we got going on this week. We hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.